Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another round of the RaceFace.Pro EG Evolved GT3 Championship. My name is Stephen Koenig, and I am super proud to be here as we are racing on a beautiful circuit of Zandvoort. And we're going to expect to see some proper chaos tonight. A track that will push everyone to their limit and seeing how far are they willing to go. That being said, the first thing we need to kick off with is a very special happy birthday to Bego Krobler. Johan Bego Krobler is his birthday today, and on a very synonymous day. Gotta say, it's a bit of an interesting one to have Bego Krobler's birthday, so big shout out to him. But that being said, qualifying is underway, so let's get to the party down at the track here at Zandvoort. As drivers starting to put the hammer down and looking forward to fighting their way through. A massive welcome to everyone joining us here at Zandvoort. Good to have you all here. Taking a look over to our virtual grandstands. We got Ilana Boyens, Adrian Balder, along with Zoot, saying unfortunately not able to make it to the race. So Henny Pochita will be out of the race due to a dislocated elbow. I know his shoulder. I've had my shoulder more than once, but a dislocated elbow. Oh, my heart goes out to you, buddy. Really does go out to you. Not a nice thing. With that being said, as we got qualifying underway, let's quickly take a sharp look towards our points when we get there. I think let's concentrate on our race, qualifying at hand. At the moment, Henry Mayer leads out at the top. So far, quickest driver out there with a 134.4, and 0.6 of a second off him is Jason Abschmeyer in second place. Fleming Bauer down into third. Daniel De Villiers holds out in fourth place, hoping he can make a real big impact here tonight. He's got a lot of hard work to be done to fight his way up through the order. And we've got Jason Farmer returning to the circuit. Missed out even racing LMU last night. He's returned to have some fun on Assetto Corsa Competizione. He's got a Gerrit Bukers trying to chase him down in 7th. 8th place is Henry Platt for the Omnius Gaming team, who drops down to 9th as Christoph Peterson puts himself up into 2nd place. 0.1 off Henry Mayer's time. A 134.6 set by Christoph Peterson. Henry Mayer with a 134.4. as he tries to get the hammer down. So, a couple of drivers really putting their way forward. And, big talking point for our Pro-Am, Benjamin Till for the Team Wolf is up into 13th place. So, good to see Benjamin Till out there. Also, moved over to Team Wolf. If I remember correctly, he was a racing snail at one point, or part of the Stingers. I think he was a racing snail at one point in his sim racing career. He's keeping ahead of Rian van der Race, and we have got our birthday boy himself, Bego Krobler, moves up into 7th place. Single digits, he wishes, on this birthday day. Unfortunately, he's into the triple digits at this point. Happy birthday. I can't wait till he watches us back. Jared Bakum out there leading out the Team Wolf in the Pro-Ams, as he's got Conrad Martin putting the pressure on. Conrad Martin coming after racing LMU last night in a McLaren, did an incredible run. However, a couple of mistakes came in, landed up with severe damage to his car, and I do want to point out, despite smashing car to pieces and nearly having to sit out, well, he's got his McLaren back out on circuit and finished up the race. So it's good to see that Conrad Martin going and showing the determination of our sim drivers. Christoph Peterson up into 1st place at 134.420. 0.055 is Henry Mayer as he's teamed with Fleming Bauer. Jason Abschmeyer locks down in that 4th place. Daniel De Villiers down in 5th. Continues on the drive and looking to really put his way forward. So far, this Nissan GTR is one to keep an eye out. He's getting chased down by Mordred Claessens in the Pandacity Porsche, hoping that they can really put the hammer down. 0.2 up on his personal time. Tiernis Burta out on the circuit. 0.1 up on his time. Gerrit Bukers 0.3 up on his time. Sean Lorero, same thing. 0.3 up on his time for the Griffin Sim Racing team. It's good to see him out there having a bit of fun. And we have even got Benjamin Till and Round for the Race both up on their time by 0.5. So they're really trying to make it work. Benjamin Till does shove himself up to 12th position. Round for the Race will come across the line and finishes up right behind him into 13th. But it is Henry Mayer who's the talking point right now. Currently up in all sectors. Going to be putting the hammer down and really seeing how this is going to work. This lap can possibly be his pole position for the running order. Is he going to make it work out in his favor? He continues to put the hammer down and trying everything he can to fight it out for the top. I mean, this is going to be a real tight fight for him to carry on through. 0.3 up. He does have the likes of Jason Abschmeyer just ahead of him, who's also up on his time. So this is going to work out in his favor. Abschmeyer comes across the line, 0.1, as he moves up in second. Henry Mayer goes up to the top. Christoph Peterson drops to second. Jason Abschmeyer holds third. Fleming Bauer down into fourth with a lap time of 1:34.2 is definitely on the cards and is now showing as Bego Kroblet gets right behind fellow Team Wolf. And I think that would be the likes of Jared Bakum, who looks to fight his way through. It's just ahead of him. Yes, it is. As they come across the line in tandem. Bago, however, backs out of it and gets into the pits. He does not want to push it any further than he has to and will be concentrating on the race. Jared doing a good time to move himself up into 11th position and really continues on the chart. So, drivers still trying to get a time on the board. Daniel de Villiers is really trying to do that and get going. However, we do have a driver missing, Nicholas Manuel, who is out of this race. He will be returning in the next one. So, Milestone, yet to put a time on the board. The only driver with Reginald Montaleni. Reginald did put a time on with a 1:39.8. However, it was an off track as we do catch a McLaren with a bit of a drift on the way through. Reginald Montaleni still needing to put a time valid on the board. He did a 1:39.8. He needs to try and buckle it down to a 1:35 to be in contention with anyone up front. Milestone going to choose to wait in the pits. The American going to be waiting for his time. Keegan Bowen going and fighting his way through. He's down to 29th, up 0.3, up 0.4 on his time here at Zandvoort. And it is going to be an absolute blazer. The McLarens have been quite favorable here for the circuit. However, drivers are really needing to push the boundaries. Daniel de Villiers comes across. He goes and waits out. He's going to be in 6th place as we see Keegan Bowen jumps up into 12th. Darren Miller, the teammate to Daniel de Villiers, Thriller Miller himself, out there in the PWSR Lamborghini, supporting Red Bull and going and fighting his way through, trying to pull in everything he's got, really putting the hammer down and hoping to move up into the top 10. PWSR team been really working hard at current and really finding their way through. Also, I've got to believe there was a new button box that was made by Alan Patterson from PWSR. He is selling them out, but I wonder if the new button box that he's created, sporting the BMW, has given a little bit more pace to the PWSR team. Maybe looking at a Lamborghini version might be an idea, just to chuck it out there. Love you too, Alan. Tennis Puerta down in 15th position, tries to put the hammer down, and he is 0.1 up on his time. He will put in a good time this time round and holds up to 12th position. Tennis Puerta, big jump there, 1:35.377, and got his way into the top 15. However, Darren Miller yet to get his quickest times. Kerry Bucas, unfortunately, not a good time on it for him. Kerry Van Sale needing to really pick up the pace. Conrad Martin, Benjamin Till, Jan van der Race, still trying to get up on their times. Anton Lummers for the Treehouse Works Racing looks to try and put the hammer down. And Anton hasn't been in too much of a fighting contention, but just by circulating, has been scoring points. It's got Jeffrey LaRue chasing down. Jeffrey LaRue looking to get the rust off from yesterday. Landed up with a big accident on his side on LMU, destroying the car. Unfortunately, unable to finish the race. However, tonight, he says that he's going out for blood. He's going out for the top of the order and will be fighting his way through to the top. So Jeffrey LaRue putting the hammer down and really giving it everything he's got. Reginald Mutilini currently 0.1 up on his time as he looks to carry the momentum through. But Henry Mayer still yet to be dethroned. Christoph Peterson will be lying second place. Jason Abschmeyer and Fleming Bauer will hold the second row as it stands. But I do think Fleming Bauer's really putting the hammer down now. He's currently 0.1 up on his personal best. Vegor Krobler currently 0.2 up on his personal best. And Reginald Mutilini 0.2 up on his personal best, along with Chris Colson. So there is still drivers really giving it everything they got. Jonathan Chrysler as well, looking to really improve his lap time of a 136.1. So keep an eye on Jonathan out there. He's still got a time on to really push, but there's 2 minutes to go, and these drivers need to really dig deep if they want to make it happen. And Christoph Peterson really is snapping at the heels of Henry Mayer. He is currently 0.08 behind. So Christoph really hoping to put the hammer down. A championship winner, multiple championship winner, now looking to fight his way through. He wants to take the victory here tonight to try and steal it away from Henry Mayer. Got so close last week, and he's hoping to fight it out. And as drivers continue on, well, gotta say, I think the livery sync was too long ago. Unfortunately not. It was actually done 5 minutes before we went live on air. Always managed to do that to make sure that we have got it all set up and that we are running the correct liveries, because everyone tends to change their liveries as much as they change their underwear. And quite thankfully, I love to see the new liveries that pop up. There's great creativity amongst all the sim racers and what they can do, and that's why we got some of the stunning liveries. I mean, even take a look at Rian for the race of the GWSR, the Chromodulis team, going and showing off their McLaren with a little bit of orange, a bit of white, going and fighting. So it's just going to be a big one to fight it out. So Henry Mayer out in first place, yet to be dethroned, currently picking up the pace, matching his sectors and hoping that it's going to work out in his favor. However, it's going to be a tough time for our drivers to really figure out what is the game plan here. How can they move forward? Fleming Bauer down in fourth place, really trying to dig deep. He's 0.2 up on his personal best. He may be able to move up at second and hold the front row. He does come across a line, however, not enough to move him out of fourth place. Jason Abschmeyer holds on to third, and Peterson holds on to second place. But Henry Mayer goes faster, 134.14, as he really wants to open that gap. Jason Abschmeyer comes across the line. He's unable to improve. Darren Miller, Vegor Krobler, Harry van Zale, they will have to be content with their positioning. Reginald Mutilini is up on his time, bouncing over the curbs, really fighting his way through. Henry Platt for the Omnius Gaming team puts the hammer down. He's trying to really dig deep and find his way to the top. Conrad Martin down in 18th position is also trying to pick up any little bit of time out there. Round for the race, 0.3 as they continue on. So always going to be a very interesting race as drivers still find that little bit of time that they can push. Round for the race is going to be a good one here. Up 0.3, going to come across the line. Is he going to move up? Yes, he does. Into 11th with a 135.2. It is incredibly close between each of the drivers to really fight it out. Majority of the field is actually doing 135s from 29th all the way to the likes of 7th place is all 135s. And I mean 135.1 all the way through to 135.9. And that really shows how close these drivers are in lap times to one another. Only from 6th place to 1st is the drivers that managed to break into the 134s on low fuel. That's going to be interesting to keep an eye on, but I think race pace for tonight is going to be the 135s that everyone's going to keep an eye on. Next across the line is going to be Conrad Martin, and that will be the end of our beautiful, beautiful run here in qualifying at Zandvoort. Once again, a massive welcome to you all. Glad to have you guys out here. And looking forward to some great racing ahead here at RaceFace.Pro for the EG Evolved GT3 Championship. And we don't want to leave you out with anything on the line, as we do have EG putting a 10% off EGR sim rigs. Use the discount code SPRING10. Remember, if you're starting out or you're an experienced sim racer, it's always good to have a solid base underneath you to keep you going. And nothing's better than the T-style aluminium that you can modify to get yourself sorted. Whether you like Formula, whether you like GT, EG has got you covered with some custom powder coating just to add a bit of flavor to it as well. Bit of blue, bit of white, bit of black. You can really have your own style. Heck, even go pink if you really want to show off to your friends out there for your sim rig. But once again, we're in for a massive, massive run. And a big shout out to you all. Massive welcome to the grid. Now, let's head over to the grid, talking about that, and get to see our cars lining up on the circuit. So, as our drivers line up, getting ready to go, let's take a quick look at our results. Henry Mayer leads out the charge on 201 points, with Christoph Peterson in second place on 156. Daniel De Villiers holds third place with 137. Fleming Bauer with 128. Bagel Krobler, the birthday boy himself, going and joining in on 120, much like his age. Just joking, Bago. Absolutely love you to pieces on that one, but got to give you a little bit of gears here and there. I know that I'm going to get it next year. Jason Farmer with 111 lies in 6th. Jason Absmeyer on 89 points in 7th place. Kurt Bucas follows him in 8th on 87 points, followed by Jean-Andre de Toya on 81, tied with Ruben Heineke on 81 points. That's our top 10 of our Pro. Let's take a look at our Pro-Ams as the drivers still get themselves on the line. Ruben van der Race leads out the pack on 160 points. Reginald Mutileni up to 144 points. He's going to be quite happy about that one, but looking for the gold. And he's got Gerald Pretorius chasing him with 129 points. Jared Bakum on 122, followed by Keegan Bowen on 109. Sean Larrera on 103. He's tied it up with Keegan Bowen. Sorry, Sean Larrera and Anton Lummers, both on 103, riding for 6th and 7th position. Jan Fears is on 100 points in 8th. Ulrich de Jager on 95. And Benjamin Till rounds out our top 10 on 92, tied with Herman Webber. So, drivers up and going, and we get ready for the race. Let's quickly go through our grid here at Zandvoort for the EG Evolved GT3 Championship Season 23. Henry Mayer out in first place, followed by Christoph Peterson, Jason Absmeyer, Fleming Bauer, along with Daniel De Villiers, Mordred Claessens in 6th. 7th place is Kurt Bucas, followed by Jason Farmer, Darren Miller, Bago Krobler, Henry Platt in 11th. 12th place is Rian for the race, Kerry van Zale up into 13th. Neil Swartz, Benjamin Till, Reginald Mutileni, Keegan Bowen, Jared Bakum, along with Conrad Martin, Jeffrey LaRue rounds out your top 20. Anton Lummers starts in 21st. He's going to have likes of Johan Verveers, Vessel Woda, Jackie Albert, Herman Wepner, Ruben Heineke, Sean Larrera, Chris Collison, Perry Duplessis, Chris Beermister, Ulrich de Jager, Jonathan Chrysler, Henk Petersen, and Miles Stone starting from pit lane. The American choosing that he's going to rather start from pit lane and fight his way from the back. Massive, massive bit of work to him. And a quick one to the Americans. And for those, we do take our hats off in remembrance of the 9/11 that happened many years ago. And we are forever with you guys on that day. So, that being said, we move on to the racing at hand. Henry Mayer and Christoph Peterson both fighting for the championship, lining up side by side. Christoph nearly had the win last week. He's hoping to try and get that going. Jason Absmeyer running in 3rd place, looking to really put the hammer down, and is with the Pandassi Noctua team, and he's hoping to really make this work in his favor. However, not wearing the clothes as yet, but we'll get him to do so. Fleming Bauer will be teaming up right next to him. They will have to defend against Daniel De Villiers, and don't count out, Mordred Claessens is not one that really behaves with his team. He wants to fight out. He wants to show why he's a pro driver as our drivers make their way through. This is the bottom end of the circuit, long right-hander. It's a double apex that the drivers have to contend with, and now the pace will be slowed down. Henry Mayer and Christoph Peterson will slack off to 70 kilometers an hour. Keep an eye on the lights as Jim will be ready to call green here at Zandvoort for round 5. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together. This is going to be exciting. 1 hour and 20 minutes with racing, 2 mandatory pit stops, and 2 categories racing together. Pro in white and red is Pro-Am. But keep an eye on the lights. Lights on, lights off, and away we go racing. Henry Mayer gets a jump on Christoph Peterson. And the likes of Jason Abschmeyer going and fighting to hold his position. Christoph Peterson could not make his way through. The Pandacity team locking in. Oh, unfortunately, a little bit of contact there. Goes and causes Christoph down the order. He bottles in right next to Jason Farmer. Darren Miller gets on by along with Bego Krobler. As now the attack goes on. Henry Platt stuck on the outside. Goes out a bit wide. Trying to force Mustang. And that's De Villiers. De Villiers off. It is carnage up ahead. De Villiers was the first of it. And there's the 118 of... Who would that be? I'm not quite sure. Oh, jingos. It is a massacre. That is a... Wow. I don't even know what to say other than... Spare parts, more spare parts. I don't think there's a car not with a bend there. And unfortunately, quite a bit of impact. And it started with the 93 getting clipped. Let's see if we can try and find what on earth happened. There were so many incidents that it didn't register all of them. So, let's take a look at, this is the 17 of Jared Bacum as he came over the rise. And, oh no, that was Daniel De Villiers parked into the road and just Constantina effect right the way through. Unfortunately, sent the entire field into a nightmare. Jared stuck in the middle, just getting absolutely slaughtered. Team Wolf driver not going to be too happy on that one. And a few knocks further on as well. As we take a look at Ruben Heineke. What on earth happened to him? As Henry Mayer does fastest lap, but half the field is off dead at this point. Ruben Heineke goes out wide. He's now trying to get past. Oh, right into the back of the Stingers Racing Mustang, which comes back, hits the number 75. And that is Ulrich de Jager gets it in the nose. So quite a few drivers into pit lane. Ruben Heineke, Chris Collison, and Milestone didn't even leave pit lane. Jason Farmer, Christoph Peterson, Anton Lummers, Henk Peterson, Daniel De Villiers, Reginald Mutilini. A lot of unscheduled stops there. Karapuka's trying to make his way through after that little bit of carnage, and now continues on the drive. So, whatever's gone on with the 93, which was the initial start, where he came to a stop, that was the problem. So he got tagged by Mordre Claessens. There's Karapukas gets a tag. He stopped in the middle of the road. Drivers trying to dodge him, and it was just carnage from there. Unfortunately, the 118 going and getting spun round and taking a lot of the impact as well. And that just ended. So from one little tag from Mordre Claessens, unfortunately landed up with quite a bit of the field tanked, destroyed, and broken. So Henry Mayer up in first place. Jason Abschmeyer, Fleming Bauer, and Mordre Claessens are currently the top 4 survivors of the race. From there, everyone down from 5th all the way through to the bottom of the circuit. They've all got damage on their car. Darren Miller trying to make his way through. He's got Bego going and turning into it. So, yeah, a little bit of a clip from Mordre Claessens caused the likes of, well, our Nissan GTR going and losing it into the field. Stopped. Because thankfully Daniel De Villiers stopped. He held the brake. However, the rest of the field came through. Then it landed up with the 118 Ferrari. I'm trying to find out who the 118 was that landed up on the grass. He got a little bit out, spun in front of the field. The field went nuts. It just landed up in carnage from there. And I don't think it was to any worry of his own or any cause of his own. It landed up with just being 2 wheels on the dirt, 2 wheels on the drive, and unfortunately landed up with a bit of a problem. Now, that being said, it did swap up this race. Bego Krobler, the birthday boy, trying to run away from Darren Thriller Miller, as he's got Henry Platt all over the back of him. The Mustang understeering a lot here, and it's going to be a huge one. So, yes, I have to agree. There was a little tap, but it wasn't the kill shot. The kill shot landed up with drivers avoiding the PWSR driver. Unfortunately, the 118 Pandacity Ferrari had 2 wheels on the dirt, 2 wheels on the tar, And that led to the whole turnaround that the field went through. Unfortunately, being in the dirt lands up with less traction and a lot of impact. Not fault to anyone's own. Mistakes do happen. And when you're losing drive like that, well, it happens. So it's unfortunate. A racing incident is a racing incident. But we will leave that to the stewards. Fleming Bauer and Jason Absmeyer working together. They trying to catch up to Henry Mayer. Mordrake Claessen's down into 4th place. Not going to let himself get caught out in the run here. Karabukas fighting up with Bego Krobler. That Mustang still sporting a bit of damage from earlier contact that he had. The 333 not having the easiest time at the start of the race, going and fighting his way through. I did think also he had landed up with a bit of carnage as well. So Bego Krobler keeping the pressure on. He's got Darren Miller, Henry Platt, Jeffrey LaRue pushing as hard as they can. Benjamin Till gets ahead of Chris Biermeister as they continue on the drive. Chris Biermeister keeps the pressure on Benjamin Till, trying to figure out how on earth can he get going, where can he put the hammer down, and how hard can he work here. Benjamin Till not going to have an easy time, and it's going to be a proper run. So drivers are going to be a proper chase and see where it's all going to go. So drivers still trying to figure out what's going to happen. Rune Heineke, Chris Colson, they're waiting in the pits. Massive damage to their car and will be battling out. So let's see how it's going to work out during the course of this race. I don't think any of the incidents were intentional, so I am going to ask those out there in the virtual grandstands, please refrain from going and putting into the fight, as we'll leave it to the stewards. We're going to enjoy the action right now because Vessel Loader all over the likes of Johan Verveers as Sean Lerero putting the pressure on him. The Griffin Sim Racing up against the Kramadulis Racing, up against the, well, you've got the Griffin Sim Racing, Kramadulis, and the Trail Bullets team. Johan Verveers trying to really improve. Unfortunately, we saw Jean Verveers last night landing up with a broken Toyota. He was not able to see the end. Now it's going to be up to Johan Verveers to make it all his way. I mean, this is going to be a proper fight. As Vessel Loader and Sean Lerero keep the pressure on one another. Benjamin Till gets ahead of Jonathan Chryslet and moves up into 18th. Jonathan still fighting out there to really make it work. Now, I do want to point out something rather interesting. For those drivers that landed up with a bit of an impact at the start of the race. Christoph Peterson out there now trying to make his way through, currently is leading those that have done their first pit stop. Now, we talk about taking a bad situation and turning it around. We always talk about plan A, plan B. Well, Christoph Peterson, Jason Farmer, Anton Lummers, Conrad Martin, and Daniel de Villiers, despite it being a bit of a problem, was forced to take an early pit stop. But they did stop enough time for a splash and dash, which means they are going to be racing a lot further into the race. So it changes up the pit stop strategy that may work out in their favor due to this track is unforgiving in terms of navigating this very tough, navigating traffic. So by getting your first pit stop out of the way means that you can concentrate on the drive a little bit further. And that is where the drivers are going to need to think about the big game here. What can they do to really turn up the heat? Because now they have been given a little bit more of a difficult chance, but it is still a chance to move up. Jason Farmer, used to going into the pits earlier, has that exact same thing. And we've seen him move up into the top 10. Now other drivers are getting to experience the same thing. So it's a lot of work to be done and still fighting out. Do want to point out, Jackie Alberts returns to the racing snails in the Ford Mustang and leads out the Pro-Am. He's been out for a while. He is now back, and he's got Keegan Bowen to try and keep company with him. We take a look, though, to Henry Platt fighting out with the Stingers Racing likes of Claire Bucas. So good to see that the Stingers and the Omnis Gaming fighting it out, but Henry Platt applying just enough pressure to that Mustang, waiting for an opportunity. Jeffrey LaRue losing a bit of time, does have Neil Swartz. Now this does play into the factor of Claire Bucas having a little bit of backup there to try and help out. Jeffrey LaRue, however, is a driver to keep an eye out. He knows how to put the pressure on and will be looking forward to really fighting it through as he wants to improve after last night. Johan Verveers and Vessel Woda going to go side by side. Sean Larrera joining in the fray. He's going to be lining up around and, hard on the brakes. Vessel Woda trying to go for the undercut, and it's not going to work out. However, he does have Sean Larrera look underneath him, and Thierry Duplessis follows as well. We're getting reports of, fortunately, Chris Collison out of the race, and that is absolutely sad. Now, I'm going to ask the very silly thing here to the Singers team. Can we get that car fixed and get him back out on circuit? I still think there is time to get that car out on the circuit. As we see, the likes of Johan Verveers loses out to Veswoda, who just outbrakes himself, sends into oblivion. Ooh, contact with the likes of Thierry Duplessis, who was understeering out of the corner and just gave that shoulder tap to the likes of Veswoda. Now Sean Larrera has the attack on Johan Verveers. I do think we can probably get that car back out. I know Colson's not going to be too keen on having the damaged car waiting out a bit, but it's worth seeing it through to the end just for the points here at the EG Evolve GT3 Championship, powered by RaceFace.Pro. Johan Verveers continues on keeping ahead of Sean Larrera as we do go up the field. Terry Bucas and Henry Platt finding their way around the circuit. And that's allowing Darren Miller to open up the gap just a little bit more, seeing how he can go. Jeffrey Leroux closes up, looking to try and fight his way. He's got the likes of Neil Swartz a little further back. The Ferrari closing up in the corners, but just not having the pace to contend with the McLaren straight line speed to deal with it. As we do see Johan Verveers up on the inside. He's going to try and make it stick over the curbs. Not much space there is for Sean Larrera to make it stick. However, both come through side by side. Not often you get to see that, and well done to both drivers as Johan Verveers gets just ahead of Sean Larrera. Both of them getting a little bit unsteady. Thierry Duplessis now looks to try and keep the pressure on. Another unstable moment for Larrera, and there is a quick look. Oh, big oops going in, unfortunately, for Vessel Woda, as he went spiking into the wall and lands up, severely hurting his car. 113 not having an easy time there. And what on earth? Let's go to a helicam. So we did see the pit stop go and happen. This is prior to this, where he went off circuit, outbraked himself in the shoulder tap. So we did have a quick go for Johan Verveers. I want to take a look at that because the pit stop is always a rough one. So I'm going to go back to the helicam. Tim in our helicam is showing all the camera. So we've got Johan Verveers just ahead of us in the Ferrari. Goes out a little bit wide, catches the dirt, tanks the wall. He does slow down, move across, and Vessel Woda, out of just trying to avoid, goes into the wall. Johan Verveers spikes it into the tires and gets himself into pit lane for a bit of repair work. So not an easy time out there for the Trail Bullets team. And Vessel Woda, out of dodging and waiting for a bigger accident, goes and spikes himself to the wall. I mean, this is gonna be a tough one. There is stewarding post-race in this, so it's after the race. We do not have live stewards yet. I think there may be a way in the future, however, not at the moment. Kerry Bucas and Henry Platt continue on the charge. Jeffrey Leroux and Neil Swartz continue to keep the pressure on as they fight their way around the circuit. So unfortunately, a couple of drivers out of this race, a couple of drivers needing some major repair work on their cars. Sean Larrera, Thierry Duplessis continue on the charge and being an absolute chase. And for those that just joined us, a massive welcome. Where have you been? Round 5 has off to a really weird start, as majority of the field landed up getting smashed to absolute pieces due to a couple of mistakes that happened, and unfortunately led to quite a few drivers suffering some big impacts during the course of the race, needing some major repair work. However, leading out those that have done their first pit stop is Christoph Peterson with Jason Farmer following in. I mean, this is going to be a really, really tough one, and seeing how they can go to really put on the charge. So always, every single one of the drivers trying to think, okay, how can I figure out the next best thing? What can I do to move forward during the course of the race? Garrett Bucas and Henry Platt continue to put the power charge on one another. The two Mustangs are not leaving each other's side, and they've caught up to Darren Miller, who's putting a wheel off on the dirt every so often, just trying to keep that Lamborghini in check. That is slipping and sliding underneath him, not having an easy time, as it is a difficult car to master. But when it gets going, it really gets going. Karabukas minds out of the way. He holds for the inside line. He does see Johan Verveers rejoining the circuit, and Henry Platt will have to be content to try to get the sweep around. He does put it up on the inside, puts the hammer down, and really fights his way through. Dives up on the inside. Henry Platt moves up ahead of Karabukas, and there is Darren Miller off circuit. He loses out a bit of time. Henry Platt says thank you very much. He gets on by. Karabukas trying to capitalize on the mistake, however, was unable to do so. Now Henry Platt up into 6th. Darren Miller down in 7th. Karabukas down into 8th place. Continues on the charge. A second behind. Jeffrey LaRue, Neil Swartz, and Jackie Alberts continue on the charge. But at the moment, it is the top 4 for the Pandassi. Henry Mayer, Jason Abschmeyer, Fleming Brown, and Mordred Claussens continue on the drive as Darren Miller off into the wall. And that was a big one as he does clamp on the brakes. He waits for the field, but not an easy time for the number 11 car. And we're going to quickly take a look at what happened. Let's jump on board with the likes of Darren Miller and where it all went wrong for him. Into the right-hander, turns it in, over the curb, oh, too much, and bounces into the dirt, clips it ever so slightly, spikes the wall, turned round. Thankfully, not into the rest of the field, however, a big impact, and will be nursing that Lamborghini back into the pits. Try and get it all sorted out. Not an easy time out there, as we do have a drive-through that came in for Johan Verveers, and that drive-through is for track limits exceeded. Unfortunately, you do land up with a bit of a problem. Johan Verveers having an even worse time. First going into the pit tires, crashing out the car there, trying to get into the pit lane, plus a drive-through, means that he's going to be way down the order. Christoph Peterson trying to fight his way through. Christoph Peterson now looking to get on by. Got to give it up to Chris Biermeister. Not often you get to see those, but see the right-hand indicator turning on as Johan Verveers joins on the track. Good to see him. No quit. Going to keep going. Love to see it. But Chris Biermeister used his indicator in a very clever way, and it's to signal where he's going to be on circuit. This is actually run in real life racing out there in the GT3s, out there with all the prototypes. You indicate where you're going to be, the opposite side will be the drivers getting by. So you indicate that you're going to the right hand side like you do on the road, and it then signals to the other drivers, pass me on the left. And that is a very clever thought to allow a quick movement around and continue on. No false communication, no getting lost in the source. It's all about trying to figure out what you can do. Very talented on that one. And good to see situational awareness as Jonathan Chrysler tries a different move. Actually brakes a little bit more, allows Christoph Peterson to get on by. He's going to have Chris Biermeister chasing him down. Chris moves out of the way as he's trying to let Johan Verveers by. Johan says, nope, not going to let it happen. You keep going, and continues on the charge. So, drivers trying to get a little bit more situational awareness on the circuit, trying to figure out how this is working out there on the circuit, but it's going to be an absolute run. We do see Darren Miller into the pits. He's getting some work done on his car after the major impact. So, let's go through our running order. Henry Mayer, Jason Abschmeyer, and Fleming Bauer hold out the top 3 at current for the Pro Division. For our Pro-Am, Jackie Alberts on the return goes and holds first place ahead of Keegan Bowen and Herman Whipner, who is down in 12th position. The 33 trying to really put the hammer down as our Pro-Am drivers continue on the charge. Fleming Bauer keeps the pressure on Jason Abschmeyer and will think, how can he get on by? What's going to be the easy pass here? Or is he going to wait out that little bit more? Fleming Bauer is looking for vital points in the championship. Jason Abschmeyer is a little bit further down in the championship. So these two are going to be playing off one another, talking of what's going to be better in the long run. Jason Abschmeyer does want to score as many points as possible as he lies in 7th position and has an opportunity to move up into the top 5. Fleming Bauer is down in 4th place on 128 and trying to catch Daniel De Villiers, who holds 3rd with 137 points. So drivers are trying to think a little bit further ahead here of what they can do as we are in round 5 in a 8-round championship. So drivers that have done the pit stop, and the one leading him out is Christoph Peterson. He's been absolutely flying out on the circuit, trying to make up time. He's behind Wesselwoda, who also has taken a fair beating during the course of this race. Did do the major avoidance to not hit the likes of Fafirs. Unfortunately, it did land up with a side swipe into the barrier. The Mercedes looking pretty okay at the moment, and we'll have Christoph Peterson hunt down the inside. Not going to get the pass as Vettel tries to defend and do everything he can, trying to reclaim some of the points that he has lost. Apparently, not having a very good evening last night, and not having a very good evening tonight as well. Rem van der Race keeps the pressure on for the Kramadulis team, and will fight out with Reginald Mutelani, who is a little bit further down than where he wants to be as he fights out for second in the championship. He needs to be really up in the order. Has done his first set of pit stops. However, big one to talk about. Johan Verveers out there has finished all his pit stops with an hour to go and still has a lot of pace. Now, it's going to be a lot of lifting and coasting to make it work, but it's going to be a difficult run. Christoph Peterson trying to make his way around. Wesselwoda side by side they go. The Honda not having the drive on the AMG GT3 Evo, and it is starting to show. Christoph Peterson getting a little bit frustrated behind Wesselwoda, but Wessel is fighting for overall track position. He can go and defend his line, and Christoph Peterson just needs to think about what he needs to do to try and get the pass. Goes for the up and under. Isn't enough, however, as we do get Jackie Alberts into the pits for his first pit stop. So going a little bit later into the race is going to be the strategy. However, is it going to be a switch out tires? Oh, Wesselwoda clips the dirt into the wall, trying to defend. Slows the car up and swings as it's major avoidance for the likes of Jason Farmer and Chris Biermeister, who had a frightening look on that. Let's quickly go on board and see from the helmet cam, driver's eye of Jason Farmer, seeing the likes of Wesselwoda. After he's clipped the wall, he spun round, swung back into the field, and this is where it all went wrong. As you come through the blind right-hander, you really see a little bit of dirt out there, and take a look, and the Mercedes swings and stops. A great reaction time from Jason Farmer to avoid a T-bone that would hurt both of the drivers. And, well, Wesselwoda's going to need some serious pit work on that car. However, that is now going to chuck him down the order even further. What a reaction time, might I add, just to see the car out there. It has been absolutely off the hinges at the moment. Sean Loureiro trying to get past Herman Wepner, who puts a wheel on the dirt, loses out a bit of the time. Sean Loureiro says thank you very much and moves up into second of our Pro-Am. Keegan Bowen now leads out our Pro-Am. Wepner down into third as he will continue on the charge. Darren Miller a little bit further behind is keeping the pressure on. He wants to try and clear drivers as fast as possible and to get back into the race. Darren Miller down in 28, so he is blue flagged, but he is still trying to make up that little bit of time to work it out for him. Jason Farmer and Jonathan Crissett continue on the charge with one another as they continue the fight with the pace. Jonathan Crissett, however, not really making a big impact through the corners here, will have the likes of Jason Farmer diving for the inside line. Late on the brakes, Wesselwoda getting himself out of pit lane and will be continuing on with the race. Fantastic to see drivers not giving up despite everything. And that's one thing I've got to reiterate to all that's out there. If you see the green, you got to see the checkered. And even when you're on the back foot, even when it's all starting to go wrong, by finishing the race, you're still scoring points. You're still able to move up through the order, and you still have that fighting chance. I've got to take my hat off to those that really stick it in for the long run, not wanting to quit, wanting to really fight their way through. As we keep an eye on a battle of Rem van der Race and Reginald Mutelani, they starting to get a bit closer, and Benjamin Till up against Kerry Duplessis. Now, Kerry Duplessis for the Kramadulis Racing sees the likes of Thriller Miller ahead of him, who will be blue flagged, as we can see on the side. Kerry Duplessis will be saying, okay, I need to get round you, and I need to not lose time, as Benjamin Till hunts me down. And also, take a look, Christoph Peterson, who started out in the front row, now trying to give a bit of chase at the moment, looking to get around Benjamin Till and see where he's going to put up for the fight. Hard on the brakes, dives for the inside line, really trying to make it work. Continues on the drive. Benjamin Till holds to the right, holds to the left, sorry, to allow Christoph Peterson. Doesn't want to lose time there and allow the driver just get on by and not lose time for the both of them. Let's take a look at those running to have the most gains and losses during the course of this race, because there has been a bit. Now, I'm going to talk about those running and not those that have quit. But it's Darren Miller who's lost the most amount of positions. However, he is keeping the pressure on a lot of the other drivers as he now chases down what looks to be one of the Pandassi machines and trying to get past. As he really keeps on. That is the 33 car. Is it the 333 or the 33? No, that looks to be the 333. No, it's the 33. It's Herman Whipner down in 12th place. So Darren Miller trying to unlap himself as Herman Whipner is just ahead of him. Kerry Duplessis and Christoph Peterson following through. And I gotta say, a proper run here. So Darren Miller currently 18 seconds off his starting order. He started 9th, and due to everything that went on, he's down into 27th position, as we do see the likes of Christoph Peterson trying to get the pass down on Kerry Duplessis. Kerry goes for the defense and keeps it going. Most gains, however, actually is tied between Sean Loureiro and Kerry Duplessis, both on 16 positions up from where they started. So, a few mistakes have really turned it in, and we do have yellow flags. Henk Petersen off into the dirt and just trying to get himself going. The 816 not having an easy time out there and will be battling. Christoph Peterson runs out a bit wide, a little bit of shoulder rub as he tries to get past the likes of Kerry Duplessis. Goes to the inside line. Is he going to be able to go late on the brakes? However, Kerry Duplessis sinks it in. It is a bit of understeer. Shoulder to shoulder. They go. And Darren Miller just minds out of the way. He's like, listen, chaps, if you're going to go fighting, don't include me in the brawl. I need to make up time. I need to keep this car as clean as possible. Benjamin Till, who's right on the back of him, will also look to try and clear the likes of Thriller Miller as soon as possible to rejoin the fight. Christoph Peterson will continue to try and fight his way up in the order. Remember, he leads out those that have done their first pit stop. It was an unexpected pit stop. However, did a splash and dash to continue on. Means that the second pit stop is either going to be on the same set of tires or more. Jason Farmer into the dirt, and that's the 369. And Thriller Miller also into the same kitty litter as well, the number 11, not having a good time out there. Here's Jason Farmer. Let's see what happened. Did he lose the rear of the Ferrari through the right-hander? He does run out a bit wide. Oh, contact! Couldn't avoid the likes of Darren Miller. And that, unfortunately, led to the impact. And yet again, falls off into the dirt, trying to recover the car. And let's quickly go on board. I mean, we talked about the inhuman reaction time. But unfortunately, through these blind corners, it does make it rather difficult. And this is the blind right as he turns in. And all of a sudden, there is one Lamborghini, bang, into the wall. And does turn him around. So not an easy time out there for Jason Farmer, who, once again, dives off into the dirt. He's not having a good time and reporting in that, listen, the steering's bent here, guys. We've got to get some work on the car. The Griffinson Racing team driver will be pulling that car into the pits for a bit more work, along with Darren Miller. So drivers continuing on to find it out. This is our Pro and Pro-Am division. We do have our Gold and Silver Racing as well at the same time. So for those that are looking to join in with racing, don't worry. We cater for the top level drivers and also those that are just starting out in the world of league racing. We welcome you to come have some fun, and don't mind the argy-bargy here. This doesn't really happen often. This race has been a bloodshed moment for many of the drivers, and everyone trying to push that a little bit harder to score the points. Christoph Peterson gets on by Kerry Duplessis, who doesn't have an easy time. A little bit of contact there as he is a little bit irritated. You can see the lights flashing. Not what you need to do. Need to concentrate back onto the race as Christoph Peterson now starts to open up the gap and go on the chase of Herman Whipner. This is going to allow Kerry Duplessis to pull that gap a little bit closer and aim for third place as Herman is not too far away. Benjamin Till runs into a problem. He's into the wall and trying to get the car turned round. as the field comes through. Team Wolf, this is the Racing Snails in the Team Wolf colors, trying to get himself restarted and back out onto the circuit. Peterson continues on his charge, completing all his pit stop down into 27th position, moves up into 26th, and that does show there is a bit of time. Chris Biermeister dives into the pits to get his first pit stop out of the way, and will be keeping in mind. So, for those that are keeping track onto the pit stops, Christopher Peterson has done his first pit stop early on in the race, but the rest of the field ahead of him have not done their first pit stop. That means he's in a net first. However, Henry Mayer leads out the pros 9.6 seconds ahead of Jason Absmeyer. Fleming Bauer in third place continues on the charge, going and trying to push his new teammate to new heights, saying, listen, Jason, you understand that you are a previous champion. You are a RaceFace legacy driver. Now you need to really put the hammer down. And Fleming Bauer and Jason Absmeyer pacing each other out at the moment. Mordrake Claessen's in a little bit of no man's land, and that's left him quite vulnerable to Bago Krobler. The Team Wolf driver will continue to aim for the charge and look to try and get a bit closer. Henry Platt a little bit further back. He's 12 seconds. He's got Kerry Bucas along with Jeffrey LaRue trying to make up a bit of time. Keegan Bowen leads out our Pro-Am division with Sean Loureiro in second place of the Pro-Am, and Herman Wepner currently holds that third place. But for how long is going to be the big one, as Christoph Peterson has cleared Herman Wepner. Herman's now in a bit of a vulnerable position to deal with Harry Duplessis. The question comes down, who's going to pull the pit stop early on in this race? Who's going to get it? Now, the 45-minute mark is the halfway mark for this race, and where we expect most of the pit stops to start happening, where most of the drivers are going to be thinking about the big picture here. What do they need to do to score points, and how far they're willing to go into this race to really lay it down? As likes of Christoph Peterson still yet to make up that little bit of climb. He's fighting for it. He is clawing away at it. However, it is a tough time out there. Now, I know there's a couple of drivers that unfortunately going and getting frustrated. There was a few carnage that happened on the early stages of the race, and that landed up with drivers down the order. However, I know it is always a rough one, it's always difficult, but we do actually invite those drivers that weren't able to get the cars back out onto the circuit, as we do see one of our Ferraris mining out of the way. This is the likes of Henk Petersen going and saying, listen, you go on by. Likes of Christoph Peterson, I'm blue flag, I'm going to continue on my race. My next target is going to be Vessel Loader. We do welcome the drivers to come and have a chat to us calmly, to talk about their race, or what has happened about their race, and what's going to be the game plan heading into round 6. So for any of the drivers out there that really want to have a bit of a chat on air, please do come to the commentary room. I know that everyone is going and cheering on. We've got Ruben Heineke saying just bad luck for Jason Farmer, who landed up with some major impact on the car. He avoided one, got caught out on the second. Not quite the way he wanted to have the race. Fleming Bauer and Jason Absmeyer continue on the charge. Mordrake Claessen's along with Bago Krobler continue their pace. Henry Platt, Kerry Bukes, and Jeffrey LaRue in 8th place. King Bowen leads out our Pro-Am, and he has got a rather big gap, 9 seconds, to Sean Loureiro, who holds 2nd place of the Pro-Am field, who is currently going and just keeping a narrow 4 second to Herman Wepner just ahead. So Christoph Peterson is going to make a big impact here, depending on where he gets on pass. It's always a tough time for the drivers to work out the big plans in moving forward. It's always going to be that interesting chase here at RaceFace.Pro. We do think that many of the drivers aren't going to be fighting their way through. Do, however, see that Jason Farmer is still parked in the pits. Now, I know this is something he doesn't want to hear, and I call on everyone out in the virtual grandstands. If you know the drivers that started this race that just haven't quite seen it through to the end, there's always a chance, and we invite those drivers to pull those cars out the pits, get onto the track, and see it through. Because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, like it or not, these personalities, these drivers that we look up to in the world of sim racing, the fastest, the pros and pro-ams, that have shown great pace. So we see Sean Lorero diving into the pits. He's trying to get ahead of the likes of Keegan Bowen and Herman Whitner with an early pit stop. But the personalities behind the rigs, behind the helmets, we learn and get to experience them. We want to see them finish this race. Now, I think everyone out there, despite the incidents that has gone on, that has cost people their race, still have an opportunity to finish. Not only is it to score points, but it is for oneself to see it through to the end. And if the likes of Johan Verveers, who's smashed the car multiple times, Vessel Woda, who landed up avoiding and still landing up with a bit of carnage with his car, the likes of Henk Pedersen, who landed up with major damage to his car and had to get into the pits. This is where I think you can still get out on the circuit. There's still time. There's 44 minutes. You may be down the order, but you're not a quitter. And that's one thing we got to reiterate. Don't quit, as you can keep the power on. Herman Whitner and Kerry Duplessis continue on to fight, and will be going and fighting his way through. So Herman Whitner out there in the Panda City team continue on the charge as Kerry Pukas into the pits. Herman Whitner does follow and will continue on. So Christoph Peterson moves up into the top 10 and will continue on the charge here at Zandvoort. A difficult circuit that has really tested the drivers to make their way through. So, out there in the virtual grandstands, if you know family or friends that were racing now, they have gone and said, listen, the car is bust, we're not going to go back out. They're wrong. Tell them they're wrong. Get them back in the car. Let's see them through, because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're here for entertainment. We're here for racing. We are here for a fight for the championship. Win, lose, or draw, it is a race. It is a championship. And if there's an accident on the track, it is an accident. It's a problem. But win, lose, or draw, we are around the world facing and pushing here in the world of motorsport. We are looking to charge on. So get back in your cars, get back out on the circuit, and show what you can do. Mordred Claessen's trying to fight his way through, getting past his own teammate of Chris Biermester, will continue on his charge in fourth place to try and break away from Bego Grobler. But that is my call out, my final call out to all the drivers and teams. Don't be that quitter. Jackie Alberts and Daniel De Villiers, they are now coming to blows with one another as Jackie Alberts is returning. And got to point out, Jackie Alberts currently races in the Pro-Am, so there's not necessarily a fight between himself and Daniel De Villiers for class position. However, it is on track position, so they will be trying to close it up on one another. They'll be pushing to see how they can go. I do want to point out that a couple of drivers out there really trying to make it work, and there is one of the drivers returning despite everything. Jason Farmer heads back out onto the track to see it through to the end. Thank you very much. That's what I love to see. Drivers, zero quit, will get back out there and push that a little bit more. I do welcome the likes of Thriller Miller to come in and get going as well. I do think that he needs to come and rejoin, show that Panda, the PWSR car up towards the sharp end of the field. We don't want to see cars ending out, especially after such a stacked field, after a considerable pace from all drivers in qualifying. We want to see it through to the end. Neil Swartz now dealing with Christoph Peterson as he fights for 9th place. Neil Swartz going and keeping an eye on Christoph Peterson on two different strategies here, with Christoph an earlier pit stop, now taking on Neil Swartz, who's got a little bit of a later pit stop. He does dive towards pit lane, however, you can see it's just off the racing line. A very difficult pit as he gets in and will continue on. Jace Farmer following in the back of Christoph Peterson, who's now 5.7 seconds off Keegan Bone. Fleming Bauer trying to tell Jason Absmeyer, come on, buddy, we need to go. We need a little bit more pace here. Give each other a bit of room, as Christoph Peterson is starting to make that climb, and they need to create enough of a buffer for their pit stops coming into play, because Christoph is racing right the way through. It is a later stop for the Pandassi teams, as Jason Absmeyer, Fleming Bauer, Henry Mayer, Mordred Claessens are needing to do their first pit stop, along with Bego Krobler, Henry Platt, along with Jeffrey LaRue, Keegan Bowen needing to do his his 2 pit stops. So it's a very, very late stop for them. Same as Jonathan Christ, second in the Pro-Am, needing to do his first pit stop. This is going to change things up, as we do see Fleming Bauer dives into the pits. He wants to try and get himself sorted out, and it's a react at this situation as the rest of the drivers still going on. Fleming Bauer felt he was a little bit slowed down behind Jason Absmeyer. He gives it to Mordred Claessens. Bego Krobler says thank you very much. He takes 4th place and continues on the charge. The birthday boy himself now looking to put himself on the podium and really trying to make his way through. It's going to be a very tight stop for the rest of the field. The question is, are they going to take tyres? Fleming Bauer, Henry Platt pulling into the pits, and it does look like Jeffrey LaRue goes into the pits. Keegan Bowen goes and pulls into the pits for his stop. The Ravenous Motorsport 10 will be keeping an eye on the run, as Christoph Peterson goes up into 5th place, and now 28 seconds behind Bego Krobler. So still a lot of time there to gain, still a lot of hard work to really fight his way through. Christoph Peterson continues on the drive and seeing where it's going to work out, as the drivers will be fighting their way to the top. Bego Krobler holds 4th place. Now it's going to be very tight on the pit stops, and let's take a look at what's happened. Fleming Bauer has done his first pit stop, and the good tell of what's happened, he's gone and changed his tyres. 33.2. So he's on a fresh set of rubber compared to Christoph Peterson, 14 seconds behind. Henry Mayer dives into pit lane. He has got a little bit of a gap to Jason Absmeyer. Is Jason going to dive into pit lane? No. Oh, yes, he is. Very late choice to go into the pits. He was second guessing it there, and that has cost him a little bit of time. Kerry Bucas keeps pressure on Henry Platt, both on new set of tyres, along with Jeffrey LaRue. Keegan Bowen on new set of tyres. Anton Lummers with a short stop, and Neil Swartz also with that little bit of a long stop, going and putting tyres. Henry Mayer pulling into the pits, Jason Absmeyer, Bego Krobler as well, and the only driver that continues out there for the 2 laps. And I've got to say, Mordred Claessens, a driver that going back 2 seasons ago was a driver that was incredibly quick, but had a lead foot, and it showed. He was actually the highest fuel usage car in the entirety of the team, and now seems to have figured out how to lift and coast just enough to use as little fuel as possible in the Porsche to continue on the drive and go a little bit further than all the Pandassi team himself. Christoph Peterson trying to get past the Racing Cells. He gets past the number 25 car, and that is Jackie Alberts moving out of the way, saying, listen, you passing me right now, you get past, you have a bit of fun out there. Jackie Alberts a little further down the order will think about his strategy and what needs to be done to fight his way through the order. He wants to try and make it work here in the Pro-Am side. He's going to utilize the tow from Christoph Peterson for a bit. Henry Mayer still holds fast lap time of the race. He's down into 3rd place with a 135.2. New set of rubber on him, along with Jason Absmeyer, Fleming Bauer, and Bego Krobler putting a new set of rubber on. Jonathan Christ out on the circuit, still yet to do his first pit stop. Also, really well done on the driver to go that little bit further in the Lamborghini. That screaming V10 is definitely not fuel economy wise going to be the best. Mordred Claessens dives into the pits for the Boxer engine. Going to be really enjoying that one. But Jonathan Christ going a little bit further in the race. 36 minutes to go, and still a lot of pace left on the cards for our drivers. So it is going to be a proper charge of fun here at RaceFace.Pro. Many of the drivers considering what they need to do to fight it out for the coveted prize of being champion, and at the end of the season, winning a trophy sponsored by SBR and Rhino Utility that is absolutely stunning, and a great mantelpiece on the shelf showing off your efforts. Christoph Peterson now 3.9 seconds ahead of Henry Mayer. This is going to be an interesting one because both have been running similar lap times and are now going to be chasing each other down. If Christoph pits, I do think Henry Mayer is going to go that lap extra to go for the overcut. If Henry Mayer pits early, it's going for the undercut to really dig deep on Christoph Peterson here, who did short fuel at the start of the race. Sean Lerera keeps pressure on Conrad Martin, who continues his fight. The Treehouse Works Racing team going and fighting out with Sean Lerera up behind him in 15th position. Quick wheel drop onto the dirt, not an easy thing. You got to try and clear that dirt as much as possible to carry on the drive. Conrad trying to gain a bit of time as we see Vesselwoda pulls into pit lane to get his final stop out of the way, and will be losing out to Benjamin Till, dropping down into 25th position. As Conrad Martin and Sean Lerera keeping each other busy, Reginald Mutilini dives into the pits. Sean Lerera just laying on the pressure on Conrad, hoping for a mistake to happen as they fight out for currently 4th position in the Pro-Am standings. And Conrad Martin and Sean Lerera will be looking for the next big move here. Sean Lerera laying in the pressure, hoping Conrad's going to make a mistake. However, not going to be an easy one. Conrad knows how to follow those mirrors in and will be keeping his eyes forward all the way through to ensure he stays in for the fighting run. So Conrad Martin will have Sean Lerera from the Griffin Sim Racing team. Looks on the inside, late on the brakes, couldn't quite get it into the double apex, couldn't get that undercut to push him off the apex, and will now have to think a little bit more to it. Conrad, once again, defends the inside line, making it very hard work for the likes of Sean Lerera as we do jump off onto the back of the Treehouse Works Racing McLaren, trying to make his way through. Daniel De Villiers has completed all his stops, up in 19th position. Keep an eye on him, along with Jackie Alberts in 20th position, is the head of the Pro-Ams that has done all the pit stops. Reginald Mutilini re-in for the race. Ulrich Diaga and Benjamin Till look to follow suit as well. This is going to be a show of force, however, to the likes of Anton Lummers, Conrad Martin, Sean Lerera, Wepner, Duplessis, Beermister, likes of Bowen and Chrysler will need to keep that well in mind, especially Jonathan Chrysler, as we down to 33 minutes left in this race, and he's still circulating as the only car to do 2 stops left. Give him his due. Give this man a bells. And what a drive thus far. Jonathan Chrysler has once again gone over and above fuel saving in a car that isn't known for it. He's able to save that little bit more fuel. He hasn't done his first stop. He hasn't gone into pit lane at all and is still circulating during the course of this race. Bit of fight going on as Beggar Krobler and Mordred Claessens keep the pressure on one another. And take a look. Christoph Peterson goes in for the pit stop. Henry Mayer, Jason Abschmeyer, and Fleming Bauer retake first, second, and third accordingly. And here comes Mordred Claessen's Beggar Krobler to go and claim their positions up to go 4th and 5th. And that is now putting things back into order from the running. As Beggar Krobler keeps the pressure on Mordred Claessen's, hunting down this 4th place. These two have done battle in the past. They crossed swords in the past, and now looking to do it all over again as they keep on the power. So always a tough time here for Mordred Claessens and Beggar Krobler, but they are not going to give up. Christoph Peterson now leaves pit lane. Gerard Bukes and Henry Platt, who are fighting with one another. The 2 Mustangs trying to show off who is better in the running. Jeffrey LaRue gains position up into 9th. Christoph Peterson down into 10th position. Has put a new set of boots on his car. 33 seconds in the box. And will be chasing down Jeffrey LaRue. So he's got the youngest of the rubber out on circuit. Sean Lerera dives into the pits. Kerry Duplessis will gain that position as they continue on past. So there's good moves happening out here. Lots and lots of thinking from the drivers. Christoph Peterson keeps the pressure on Jeffrey LaRue, trying to figure out how can he get by the 27 car. The McLaren has got a lot of run on the Honda, but the twin turbo continues on. Henry Mayer sits fast lap time of the race, 1:34.5, which is incredibly close to his qualifying time. As we do get reports, Neil Swartz off into the dirt and does come across with Anton Lummers now making up a bit of ground. Unfortunately, Neil Swartz not having an easy time out here tonight and losing out a lot of pace. Jeffrey Leroux loses out in position to Christoph Peterson. Now trying to utilize the toe. Beggar Krobler looking for the inside, heading into turn 1. No, actually chooses to remain behind Mordred Claessens and will look to lay in that pressure. So a little bit more thinking coming in for the birthday boy and trying to figure out what is going to be the big game plan here as Bego into the top 5. Continues on the charge. Mordred just ahead of him, trying to keep the run. Jonathan Crisset, once again, still out there, has not done his first pit stop. He is still circulating at this point with 30 minutes to go. And so far, the drivers have been on track for going 50 minutes thus far during the course of this race. I mean, that is a considerable amount of time that Johnson's been out there trying to nearly get to the hour mark to do his first pit stop. And it's going to be a rough double stack for him as he will spiral down the order after having to stop once, twice, maybe trying to create a bit of a buffer to himself and Keegan Bowen, which is rather possible because at the moment he is nearly 20 seconds adrift to the likes of Keegan Bowen. Sorry, he's about 15 seconds adrift from Keegan Bowen. So he is making a bit of headway there to keep first place. However, Keegan has gone into the pits. He's the first one to do so, and he's got to keep an eye out because likes of Jackie Alberts has also completed all his pit stops as well. So the Pro-Am's thinking a long game here. What can be the big move? How can they continue on the drive? Bego Krobler still fights out with Mordred Claessens. The two of them, no switch up between it as we got Flem Bauer once again stuck behind Jason Abschmeyer, who continues on the pace. So the drivers looking that little bit more, trying to work it out on the way through, and everyone trying to figure out what is going to be the best plan here for the race. Sean Lorera and Jackie Alberts once again looking to get close to one another. Jackie Alberts up into 19th position. Will I have Chris Biermester 10 seconds up the road from him, but still needs to do his final pit stop. Jason Farmer, after the incident, looking to get his pit stop done and dusted to clear it and continue on the race. So always a tough time out there. And we do know in the world of sim racing, in the world of motorsport, emotions run high. And we've got to remember we have got people out on the circuit. These are people on the sim rigs that fight it out for the championship. You don't want to land up going and hurting relationships like that. Mordred Claessens and Bego Krobler still continue on their fight for 4th and 5th position with Bego Krobler, the birthday boy himself, not able to get on by 21 again, and will continue the fight against Mordred Claessens. Pandacity team have so far shown a dominating force into the top 4, locking it out, and it's going to be a big smile on their face if they can continue that charge. However, Team Wolf, the likes of OG with Henry Platt, Herb Bucas of the Stingers, and the logistical nightmare racing Theo the Bones driver, Christoph Peterson, look to put a ding in that one as fast as possible to ensure that they're in a fighting run. Jonathan Crisset only now comes into the pit lane. Somebody go and check this Lamborghini because wow, oh wow, driver of the race has to go to Jonathan Crisset. 27 minutes remaining, and this is his very first pit stop. I mean, 52 minutes of driving, and he is only doing his pit stop now. That is incredibly well done, and one of the hardest things to actually do is to really make it work to go that far. I take my hats off to you as a fuel saver, as we do keep an eye on Conrad Martin, who fights for position. He looks to battle out against Herman Whitner. Now, this is an interesting play as Conrad Martin's trying to catch up to Anton Lummers, his teammate, in 3rd place. That also means Conrad Martin will need to get past his own teammate, Anton Lummers, two very, very good friends that will be fighting out for the podium. And might I add, these two, Anton Lummers and Conrad, do know that they will fight out tooth and nail. I've actually seen the two of them come to blows with one another, trying to really make their way through. Herb Bucas lets on by with Christoph Peterson making quick work of Bucas, and now looks to try and open up the gap as quick as possible. Bucas is going to utilize that toe to get a little bit closer to fellow Mustang, Henry Platt. So Conrad Martin, Herman Whipner fighting out in the Pro-Am division. They're going to see what they can do. And so far, a big turn of events as Keegan Bowen is in first, Anton Lummers is in second. Conrad Martin holds third place as it stands right now for the Pro-Am field. Got to keep an eye out for Jackie Alberts. Chris Biermeister still yet to do a pit stop, along with Jonathan Christett. Needs to get his final stop out of the way. But Conrad Martin holds on to third place. Is he going for pit lane? No, he's not. He's going to continue on a little bit further now as Herman Whipner behind him will try and give up some of that chase as well. So good to see the drivers really working their way through, trying to figure out what is the big plan here. What do they need to do to one-up each other in the field of the Pro-Ams and to be on that final spot of the podium with a late pit stop as they're running the clock down. It is going to be keeping an eye on Jackie Albertson while Conrad Martin and Herbert and Whipner fight each other out. This is going to allow likes Jackie Alberts to get a little bit closer and be part of the fight. So they also allowing Kerry Duplessis out there for the Cramadulas Racing Ferrari to close up that gap and be part of the fight as well. So always a tough time out there, a bit of guessing game, a bit of strategy coming down to the pit stops. Well, one thing we can talk about is not strategy, but it's brute force pace. Mordred Claessen's Beggar Krobler, who continue on the charge with one another. Mordred just keeping ahead of Beggar Krobler as Herman Whipner try to look around the outside of Conrad Martin as we just changed. Goes for the up and under. Herman Whipner up into third place in the Pro-Am field. And now looks to find out against the Treehouse Works Racing Conrad Martin to really put the pressure on to see if he can get on by and how hard can he make this work. I mean, Conrad Martin now starting to lose a bit of time out here. He is on an older set of tires compared to Herman and is starting to show out there. The understeer going and costing him a little bit of time. Henry Platt loses out a bit of time to Christoph Peterson as he gets on by. Christoph up into 6th place. Still gives a chase to Beggar Krobler, who's 28 seconds up the road from him. Beggar Krobler has got the pressure from Mordred Claessen's up ahead. He is still trying to fight it out. Fleming Bauer, 1.3 seconds onto Jason Abschmeyer, who holds 2nd place. And Henry Mayer leading out the field, 12 seconds ahead of the pack. As we do take a look right behind, we do see the chase of Beggar Krobler. Sorry, that isn't Beggar Krobler. That would have been his teammate, likes of Jared Bakum, who was fighting out there. Yes, it is Jared Bakum. He's in the 17 car, lying in 28th position, trying to figure out how to get past what looks to be the 48 of Johan Verveers. Now, sorry, that isn't Johan Verveers. That is not 48. That's one of the Pandacity cars trying to keep going and losing a bit of time. So good to see that Jared Bakum has not given up the fight and is still out there. Johan Verveers been in the pits 3 times. Jason Farmer been in the pits 3 times and still gives on the chase. So still a good battle out on the circuit. Jonathan Christett and Chris Biermeister still needing to get their pit stops done and dusted. They are in a bit of a hurt situation now that far down the field as we got the likes of Keegan Bowen, Anton Lummers, and Herman Whipner leading out our Pro-Am field. Henry Mayer, Jason Abschmeyer, and Fleming Bauer continue to hold the Pro field and continue on the charge. Now, this is big motions coming in, and it's going to be coming down to the final pit stops. Who is going to pull the trigger first? Who's going to be able to make that great judgment call, or is going to be able to outdo one another in brute force pace? It's now coming down to who's saving enough fuel to get going. And I do want to point out, Christoph Peterson has put a new fresh set of boots on his car, while the others ahead of him, the top 5, are yet to do their final stop, and they've taken away their chance of putting new sets of tires on. They're going to be racing on that old set through to the end of this race. Have they gone and saved enough tire life to make it work in their favor? And not to take away as well, a little bit further down, 16th position, and this is the likes of Daniel De Villiers, who lies in 16th. He's closing the gap to Gerry Foncel. He's also gone and done his final pit stop, 32 seconds out there for the Nissan GTR, and going to really fight his way through. This is going to be a tough run for our drivers to see how they can go and fight on the way through. Tiana Sport asking, is there any shortcuts Henry can use to get new music on his playlist? Well, it's going to be an interesting one at the moment because he lost out the fastest lap time of the race. That has gone to Christoph Peterson, who has gone in and fought his way through. Bego Krobler has done his final pit stop. So Bego pulled the trigger. He's not going to lose out time to Mordred Claassen. He's done his stop. He's now in 6th place. Christoph Peterson up into the top 5. Herman Whitner now fighting out with Anton Lummers. This is for 6th place in the Pro-Ams as Anton Lummers really goes out wide and just can't bring the car back. And there's Herman, slots in just ahead. Anton's going to try and put his nose in. Unfortunately, gets a cut off. Herman Whitner up into 2nd place. Lummers into 3rd and will be continuing on the charge. Keegan Bowen leads out our Pro-Am. Conrad Martin 1.5 seconds back on his own teammate, and he is bringing Kerry Duplessis along for the tow as well. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting time because I think our 2-car field will now switch into 4. Mordred Claassen's into the pits to get his pit stop done. This is a react to Bego Krobler, who comes on by. Is Bego Krobler close enough after the pit stop? He spent 5.8 seconds in the box and has got Henry Platz on the back of him. But has Bego done enough to get ahead of Mordred Claassen, who he's been fighting out throughout this race? As we do see Christoph Peterson taking yet another position and moving up into 4th and still getting within shot of that 3rd place. 40 seconds separates himself and Fleming Bauer for that 3rd place. This is going to be a wild one and is going to be a charge as Mordred Claassen pops out just ahead of Bego Krobler. The undercut did not work on Mordred Claassen's. Bego now needs to fight it out for that 5th place yet again. A hard charge comes through. Fleming Bauer puts the pressure on Jason Absmeyer, trying to force him to go that little bit quicker and see how it's going to work out. Down towards our Pro-Ams, Kerry Duplessis and Conrad Martin are fighting it out for the running order. 18 minutes left in this race, and we have got a trio going into... Sorry, this is a quad at the moment, as Herman Whitner is only 1.5 seconds ahead of Anton Lummers, who's got his own teammate, Conrad Martin, on the back of him, and Kerry Duplessis is on the back of that. 4 drivers are going to really lean on the pressure here to figure out what is going to be the game plan to move forward. This is a difficult time for Herman, who is currently 2nd in the Pro-Ams as it stands. He's got 2 teammates and the Kramandulas onto the back of him. Kerry Duplessis looking to try and get on by. And this is for all the marbles, folks, because when they pit, they need to get ahead of Jackie Alberts in 15th position. In 18th position. And needs to keep the pace going. This is a tough time. A box lap is 23 seconds to get your car done and dusted. And at the moment, they are only just ahead of Jackie Alberts, unless they lose time to one another. And Conrad Martin is starting to feel that as Duplessis lays on the pressure, trying to figure out where he can get by. How is he going to work out? As we jump on board of Kerry Duplessis, who really puts a hammer down. He dives into the pits. Duplessis into the pits. He is going to leave Conrad Martin. This is going to allow the likes of Daniel De Villiers, who's a pro driver, to get on by. He's got Vesselwoda still out on the circuit. Good to see Vesselwoda fighting his way through. He is in 25th position, but still continues on the drive. So, an interesting turn of events now. Conrad Martin, Anton Lummers, teammates, friends, amigos, now gonna be foes, because one of these drivers will be on the podium when they finish this race. Which one is going to be the game plan here? Who has got the advantage? Anton Lummers or Conrad Martin? As Kerry Duplessis comes out of pit lane, he does lose out to Jackie Alberts. Jackie Alberts is in a net 3rd place right now, and it's going to come down to the wire of who's going to push that little bit further in. Chris Biermester needs to get into the bits along with Jonathan Chrysler, Conrad Martin, Anton Lummers, Herman Whitner, Neil Swartz, and Keegan Bowen who are Keegan leading out the Pro-Am field, will need to get that pit stop done and dusted. Vegard Krobler closes up on Mordred Claessens yet again. 11 seconds off the likes of Jason Absmeyer, who has lost out the position to Fleming Bauer. So a bit of a change up there for the drivers. And the 97 car, or the 90 car, going and switching out with Fleming Bauer, allowing him to charge up through the order. And this will be a big run for the points. Chris Biermeister, unfortunately, losing a bit of time. Jackie Alberts onto the back. Now, this is a big move. Jackie needs to clear Chris as fast as possible to make it work out in his favor. However, if he's not able to, he will be losing out valuable time to go and fight for the podium at this point. And he is needing to really fight through. And you can see how desperate he's trying to get that pass done and dusted. So you see another car into the pits, and that's Henry Mayer gets the pit stop done. Jackie Alberts, a quick look on the inside, makes a pass, and does make it stick on the apex, down to first gear, just to find it out against Chris Biermeister, who still needs to pit. Jonathan Chrissett still needs to pit, and continue on. Henry Mayer in and out of the pits as fast as he can. 5.7, he's up into second place. Jason Absmeyer will need to carry on, as Jason actually has done all these pit stops. Big move coming in there for Jason Absmeyer. Fleming Bauer is the only one that hasn't done his pit stop. So Henry Mayer is in a net first place, along with Jason Absmeyer, net second place. Christoph Peterson, net third place. So this is going to be an interesting one. Fleming Bauer trying to go out. Mordred Claessens gets a little bit of a love tap there from Vegard Krobler. A little unsteady, but he got himself back into check and to carry on. No time lost. I got to say, well done catch for Mordred Claessens to avoid going and losing control of the Porsche there. And well done to Vegard Krobler. He backed off a little bit, allowed the Porsche to resettle and continue on the charge. Jackie Alberts trying to get past Sean Loureiro, who loses out that position. And Jackie loses the car over the curbs. And this is a nightmare situation for the Racing Snails Ford Mustang. Keegan Bowen into the pits. Conrad Martin into the pits. And Jackie Alberts needing to try and come through to try and take the advantage here. But Keegan Bowen will hold first place in the Pro-Am with 13 minutes to go. Has done enough. Conrad Martin coming out of pit lane will lose out to Chris Biermeister and Sean Loureiro, who has done their pit stops and will fight their way up the order. So Conrad Martin, that little bit of a later stop, not works out in his favor. And that will be a telling sign for Herman Wepner and Anton Lummers, who are still yet to pit, with Keegan Bowen, who is a net first place, in the mortal words of Alan Patterson, looking to try and gain that Pro-Am win. Daniel de Villiers, who is on the climb at the moment, he's trying to get past Anton Lummers. These two are friends. They're going to work with one another. And Daniel de Villiers, who's a pro driver, does get on by easy through Anton Lummers. A big thank you on there, and continues on his way. Good to see the drivers enjoying one another's company, and also going in respecting of, okay, listen, your race, my race, we're in two different races here, but Anton, you need to try and keep the hammer on, rather let me get ahead, tow you along, as I've been putting in the lap times. Last lap time was 1:35.5, where Anton Lummers was 1:37.8 before they even crossed the line for this lap. And across the line, Daniel de Villiers 1:36.1, and like Anton Lummers with a 1:38.8. He did, however, back off the throttle to allow the likes of de Villiers to get on by. Anton Lummers still needs pit, Biermeister needs pit, Jonathan Chrislett needs pit, Platt, Bucas, LaRue, Neil Swartz, and Wipner still need to get into pit lane for their final stops. However, keep an eye on Fleming Bauer. He's part of the top 5 that hasn't pitted as yet, and trying to stretch the legs to get ahead of Christoph Peterson, who is on the way through. Henry Mayer, Jason Absmeyer, they've done their pit stops. They're going to be working together with one another. Mordred Claessens, Vegard Krobler, a phenomenal fight between these two, and a big run on both drivers as they're trying to push the boundaries. And this is what we love to see. A little bit of hard work coming into play for the Team Wolf and Pandacity drivers as they really try and bounce off one another. Same as Sean Loureiro up against Chris Biermeister. Two different strategies coming into play here. Chris Biermeister, a very late stop. He's needing a bit of repair work on the car and will be suffering in straight line, as Sean Loureiro all over the back of him, trying to get that pass done and dusted. And, oh, big dive in for Daniel de Villiers. He lost out under braking, got past Herman Wepner. He retakes a position, and it's going to be the Nissan GTR to keep going. A late braking to try and make the pass happen. However, not working out in his favor. Herman Wepner fighting it out with Daniel de Villiers. Not sure if that's exactly what he wants to do, as now he does forcibly lose a little bit of time, and will have Anton Lammers and Keegan Bowen a little bit closer, along with his own teammate. Sean Loureiro keeps pressure on Chris Biermeister as they fight their way through. Sean Loureiro looks up on the inside into the right-hander, forces his nose in to try and get off the apex, and Chris Biermeister not backing down. These two all shoulder to shoulder, and Sean Loureiro going for the drag race here. No budge on both cars as they battle on. Jackie Alberts just keeping an eye on this, saying, okay guys, let's see how it's going to work out here. Sean Loureiro late on the brakes. Has he gone a little bit too far? No, he keeps it in. Down to first gear, slows the car up just enough to get ahead of Chris Biermeister, and that has changed up the game. Jackie Alberts now puts a pressure on Chris Biermeister. Quick flash of the light saying, listen buddy, I'm going to come past you. Please let me by. You're on a different strategy here. You're going to cost me a bit of time. To Sean Loureiro in our fight. So Keegan Bowen in third place and is in the net first place for our Pro-Am. Herman Wepner and Lammers still needing to do their final stops. Chris Biermeister needing to do his final stop along with Jonathan Chrysler as they carry on by. So we are seeing little moves happening in this race that is dictating how it's going to go. Chris Biermeister and Jackie Alberts continue on the charge. Mildred Claassen, as they get past the likes of Reginald Mutilini, mines out of the way, goes up high through the embankment to let on by. Generally, that is not a good line. Just ask Lewis Hamilton how that went. But Bego Krobler and Mildred Claassen continue to follow each other through. Mildred just keeping a little bit ahead of Bego. Watching his mirrors at the moment, looks towards the right-hand side, as that seems to be where the likes of Bego's more comfortable to go on the attack. He aims for the right, wearing you down, not aiming too much on the left-hand corners to go and fight it out. And you can see both cars now starting to get a little bit overheated on their tires. Their grip is starting to wear out, and they're running into a bit of an issue of that understeer coming in. As we do have reports, Chris Biermeister gets into the pits. Neil Swartz came in and out of the pits. And Jonathan Chrysler gone for pit lane. Late on the brakes for Bego Krobler to try and get past Mildred Claassen, who was a little bit ahead. Bled off the brakes a little bit earlier to make it work out. Reginald Mutilini sitting there, just keeping an eye on the run. Is enjoying his race. Unfortunately, a little bit down the order from where he wants to be in the Pro-Am field. However, is going to see some spectacular racing for 4th and 5th position. I think both these drivers are going to be rather happy on their performance. However, we do get a report. Benjamin Till into the wall. Benjamin Till taking a hard impact into the wall. And that Lamborghini looking a little bit second-hand. Jason Farmer into pit lane. And looks like he's in there for a very, very long time. And not going to be going out again. Come on, Jason. That's not how you want to go. And park your car off. You want to see it through to the end, buddy. Christoph Peterson out in 4th place, trying to close the gap. 7.3 seconds behind Jason Absmeyer. 7 minutes to go. And the lap times are telling. Christoph Peterson, last lap time, a 135.2. Jason Absmeyer, 135.8. Henry Mayer, 135.5. And Fleming Bauer with a 135.8. Who's yet to do his final pit stop. Currently lying nearly 26 seconds ahead. Fleming Bauer into the pits as he avoids Benjamin Till as he tried to make a quick pit stop there. And that was a last gasp to make it work. Henry Platt into the grass and now needing to get himself turned around. The Omnius Gaming driver looks to rejoin the circuit. And one of the very few Omnius Gaming drivers left in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. But the one-man army continues on to fight for the green. Fleming Bauer in and out of the pits. Henry Mayer, Jason Absmeyer get by. Is Christoph Peterson next? Christoph Peterson trying to close up. And it's Fleming Bauer just ahead as he enters turn 1. Christoph Peterson just too far back to break that toe. Fleming Bauer now up into 3rd place behind his teammates and looks to defend. But with 6 minutes to go, 3 seconds separating Peterson and Fleming Bauer, with Fleming on an old set of tires, Christoph on a new set of tires, to really lean into it. Karabukas still needs to get his time into the pits. Jeffrey LaRue trying to get into the pits, as we do get note of Henry Platt diving into pit lane. He will lose out of the position to Daniel De Villiers. Whitner and the Lummers are still yet to get themselves sorted. Jackie Albert's all over the back of Sean Loureiro, trying to get the pass on one another. Loureiro, quick wiggle there, just saying, listen buddy, let's work together. Let's pull each other along here. Keegan's up the road, and instead of us fighting, let's try and get a bit closer and have that chance at first place. It's going to be a long, hard look for both drivers to make it work, as Sean Loureiro and Jackie Albert go and open up the gap to one another. The Racing Snails and the Griffin Sim Racing team trying to use a little bit of clever thinking in the run. Whitner now into pit lane. Lummers still continues on, and we'll see it through a lot closer to the end. This is a very tough call for the Pro-Am driver, who is only 9 seconds away from Keegan Bowen. Herman Whitner going and losing out to Sean Loureiro, and Jackie Alberts filters in right behind. Whitner just coming out of pit lane is now got Loureiro in sight, as Loureiro holds third place as it stands. He's got Jackie Alberts on his tail, lying in 6th in class. So great racing thus far. Henry Mayer leads out the pros with Jason Absmeyer and Fleming Bauer, and it's still Anton Lammers who leads out our Pro-Am. Keegan Bowen out in 2nd place, and Sean Loureiro holds on for 3rd place in a race for desperation to hold that final spot. Herman Whitner looks for the inside line. Jackie Alberts doing exactly the same. 3rd place is on the cards here, as all the drivers continue on the charge. Loureiro goes out wide. Whitner try to look for the inside line. They couldn't make it work, and just jumping on board of Loureiro's Griffin Sim Racing Ferrari, as he does have likes of the Pandacity car and the Racing Snails chasing him down. You can see Whitner looking left, looking right, trying to figure out where can he get this pass to work out in his favor. And remember, Whitner is in the fight for the championship in the Pro-Am side of things, as it's round for the race sits in 1st, Reginald Mattolini in 2nd, Gerard Pretorius in 3rd for the Griffin Sim Racing team. However, this is going to be a big run for Whitner, who is tied in points with Benjamin Till, who's had a bit of an impact and lost a bit of time. So he's really trying to dial it in here to make it work to get that little bit further. Sean Loureiro in 6th place is crucial for points, as he's tied with Keegan Bowen, who's up in 1st as it stands. So, as we keep an eye on the championships, we keep an eye on the race, as Anton Lammers and Conrad Martin go and fight one another. An interesting little fight is going to form here, as Anton Lammers and Conrad Martin are closely keeping up to Harry Duplessis, Jackie Alberts, and Herman Whitner, as Harry Bucas pulls into the pits to get his final stop. Jeffrey LaRue follows suit. Their final stops will be out of the way, and we would be clear of all the drivers, and it's now a race to the end. Conrad Martin closing up on Anton Lammers, tries to look for the inside line. That's not going to work out in their favor. Duplessis on Jackie Alberts, Herman Whitner just up the road, and this is a fight for the likes of 2nd place, as Sean Loureiro is not too far away from them. Keegan Bowen leads out, but how long can he keep going, as Mordred Clausen's into the dirt, the number 10 not having a good opportunity. And let's quickly try and take a look at what happened to the number 10 as Mordred Clausen's came on by, and it was just a dive into the dirt. Oh, big impact into the grass. He's able to slow the car down, and that was a shocking run for Mordred Clausen. Something went wrong with the car. That's all I can think. That speared him off to the left hand, and he's lost out that run to Beggar Crobley. He's down into 6th, and now going to be kicking himself. A great fight, unfortunately coming to an end in the last 1 minute and 54 seconds. So, great racing, great fights, and drivers need to push that a little bit more. Christoph Peterson now 2 seconds to Fleming Bauer. Lap time starting to show. Bauer with a 136.2 and Christoph with a 135.2. This is going to be a last race dash for the drivers. They're not on the final lap as yet, but Peterson has 3rd place in mind. This would be a major comeback for him after a rough start to his race, getting pushed off into the dirt, now going and fighting for 3rd place. However, it is going to be one to keep an eye out for. Henry Platt with major damage to the number 9 car, and is got Neil Swartz going to come on by along with Sean Loureiro. Neil Swartz actually not getting on by. Henry Platt's going to continue charging on. This is actually creating a bit of a Constantine effect as the Team Wolf cars come in, and that was Benjamin Till having a bit of a go, and someone off into the dirt. That is one of the Ferraris. I think that might have been Jared Bacum who went off into the weeds, and yes, it was, who got caught up in that. Henry Platt going on a solid defense, trying to race it through to the end. Oh, contact, further contact, as Henry Platt just battling with the car, landed up with a light touch up against Neil Swartz, who went up against one of the Pandacity cars. And I've got a funny feeling that might be, no, it's not Fleming Bauer, that was Henry Mayer that got caught up in that light touch and nearly had a bit of a moment. Jason Absmeyer will be keeping an eye on Fleming Bauer because Christoph Peterson's all on the back of him. And I do want to report that Henry Platt is up the road from Fleming Bauer and Christoph Peterson, and can be the do or die moment for the drivers to really make their way through. This is the final lap that can change it all, and they've got the likes of Henry Platt trying to limp that car to the line in a fight. Jackie Alberts trying to hold on to hope here for 4th place. Wepner up into 3rd for the Pro-Am. Loureiro 2nd, and Keegan Bowen in 1st. But it's Kerry Duplessis who lays the pressure onto Jackie Alberts, hoping for a mistake to happen. Henry Mayer out in 1st, tries to keep it just ahead of Jason Absmeyer. Fleming Bauer and Christoph Peterson, 0.4 of a second. This is going to have to be almighty send for Christoph Peterson to get this pass on Fleming Bauer as they continue on. 0.3 of a second. Sean Loureiro gets ahead of Henry Platt and continues on his charge as he moves up the order. He does put a bit of spacing between himself and Wepner as they will be coming up to the line. But Fleming Bauer really does everything he can. Christoph Peterson going on the defense, trying to go for the attack now as it's Henry Mayer in 1st. Jason Absmeyer will hold 2nd place when they come across the line. So Henry Mayer takes a win, and it's Jason Absmeyer 2nd. Fleming Bauer narrowly holds on to 3rd place. Christoph Peterson, almighty fight, will get 4th place and the fastest lap of the race. As we do take a look to our Pro-Ams, it is Keegan Bowen to come across the line to take 1st place in the Pro-Am field. Sean Loureiro in 2nd, and Herman Wepner will take 3rd place in the race. Honestly, a great race. Lots of highs, lots of lows, lots of drama, and some incredible show of pace from the drivers to really get themselves out there and push themselves along. Fuel saver of the day definitely goes to Jonathan Chrysler for going right in towards nearly the hour mark before he does his first pit stop. But a great show from the Pandacity team, locking in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for the run, and Jason Absmeyer returning to the top of the podium. Christoph Peterson fought it all the way through, 0.2 before they got to the line, and despite having that early pit stop that was unexpected, he got himself into a really, really good position. Well done to Daniel De Villiers on his climb and Mildred Claessens on a stellar fight. I mean, great racing out there, some great driving, and honestly, some great pace. And you got to take it off to the drivers. They really showed what they could do out on the circuit tonight and really fought their way to the top. However, for some, it was just not the night to go for the victory. Keegan Bowen's going to be rather happy on his one, standing on the top of the charts. And Henry Mayer, once again, taking another victory here at RaceFace.Pro and extending his lead into the championship and still getting a great race out of it. A stunning time out there, and you can also win big with the EG Simulator rigs on a stellar run. 10% off. Use SPRING10 as the discount code to get yourself All right, and a little bit of technical difficulties. Apologies to everyone, but a massive, massive well done. First time on the podium, and driver going and fighting his way through. We got Keegan Bowen. Keegan, well done on a stellar, stellar race. Putting yourself up into first place. A tough one out there. Narrowly missing accidents. Going and running a little bit later in your strategies, but put yourself onto the top of the podium, scoring points. Round 2, you missed out third by an absolute hair, and now scoring a first place. What's running through your mind after such a dramatic race?
It's been a very difficult race. The first lap was definitely one terrifying lap to go through, trying to maneuver through 20 people and still not get bumped or tapped or spun out. Managed to get through with no damage whatsoever. Was very close though, people all over the place. Managed to squeeze through with another Pro-Am driver, and we basically just ran through the track as fast as we could. It gave me a nice little cushioning, so I didn't have to do my little squirt and dash in the beginning. Had a guy about 2-3 seconds in front, another guy about 5 seconds behind me. So that gave me a great little cushion to just sit in, not have to worry about anyone that's running slower or anything like that. We were all basically running similar pace. So that gave me a lot of confidence to just stick in there and last as long as possible. Came in the pits a little bit after half the race, and it was good. I was worried that I was going to run out of fuel. Maybe I missed a bit of a fuel strategy there, but luckily I still had a little bit of fuel left at the end of the race. So did my little splash and dash at about 14 minutes left in the race. And that gave me a nice little solid opening to sit behind some of the pro guys and learn their way of riding the track.
Well, definitely put in a stellar performance tonight and really put the fight on to the pro drivers. So well done on that one. Like all champions, and for the first time being on the podium, honestly, great work there. Anything you'd like to say to all our sponsors, to the likes of your team, to the drivers out there, the teams that you're racing against, and most importantly, and I think you agree with me on this one, because they've been cheering you on out there in the virtual grandstands.
Yeah, no, it's been great. The support has been fantastic. Thanks to all my family for watching all the streams and giving as much love and support as possible. And thank you, Stephen, for running such a wonderful and exciting stream for everyone. They really do love it and really do enjoy the enthusiasm and excitement you bring to the track.
Got to be enthusiastic. I mean, this is some of the best racing. You had a weird pit stop that had me completely confuzzled. Much like Jonathan Chrysler with his very, very, very late stop. I'm going to try and figure out what he did. But honestly, Keegan, well done on a stellar effort. Great show of points. And going to be moving up in the championship for round 6. I'm looking forward to having a chat to you again next week here live on air when you go for another win. How's that? Deal?
Yep, sounds good. Thanks so much, Stephen. Have a great night.
Keegan Bowen going and finishing out first in the Pro-Am and fighting his way through. Third place in the Pro-Am, we've got to give it up for Herman Whipner, the Pandacity driver, managing to lock it in third place. Herman, welcome to the commentary box, and what a drive on your part to really lock it in and to go for that fight, to really be in there for the challenge, and from a driver that has never seen the likes of the podium. I mean, round 1, you're 17th. Round 2, you're 9th. Round 3, you're 8th. Round 4, you're 7th. Round 5, you're 3rd. I mean, that is a massive jump. A lot of learning. How are you feeling after that race?
Stephen, I had some bad luck previous races. This one, finally a podium. So yeah, finally.
You had a fight to the end. We saw a very, very close finish between yourself and Sean Loureiro. A little bit of a tussle happened ahead of you. How are you feeling with that fight? Because it looked like it was back and forth through the field where you and Sean Loureiro had a go at one another. Then you had the likes of Fafears on you. You had Benjamin Till lurking around, Chris Beermister, your own teammate, Conrad Martin, Anton Lummers, all circling around you. And you're having to brawl with everyone out there.
Stephen, passing was a bit difficult. I must say, once I got to pass, I had some clear air, could make some seconds or two. Yeah, the game plan was to do an early pit stop lap 1. After that massive incident, got some luck passing through that snake, changed the whole strategy, decided to pit later. So yeah,
Well, it was
worked out at the end.
That's it. A stellar effort, and you can't take it away. 13th overall, and getting ahead some of the pro drivers out there. Now, being your first time on the podium, what is the game plan heading into round 6, considering you've had the bite to the cherry? You were in first place in the race as it was all going on. I mean, you have had it all tonight.
Well, Stephen, put in the grinding work, practice, putting some hours on the track. I don't know what the stat is going to be for next week, but we'll take it as it comes.
Absolutely. Well, Herman, like all that has come before you and all that will come after you, we're going to leave you with the mic to address the floor. Anyone you want to say thanks or challenge any of the drivers out on the grid, you're more than welcome, and the teams out there to also say something towards the sponsors if you would like. But I think most importantly will be to those in the grandstands that were cheering you on, looking to get that Pandacity car up into the podium, and you finally had that chase towards the top.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen, for the commentary. You really do add excitement to the commentary and the races. Thank you to all the sponsors. Yeah, what a great event.
Absolutely great stuff. Well done, Herman, and congratulations on finishing third place. Looking forward to talking to you next week on the podium. How's that sound?
I'll try my best.
I'm looking forward to it. Herman Whipner of Pandassi, third place with our Pro-Am, and well done to Keegan Bone, leading out our Pro-Am at the end. Now, with that being said, let's have a chat to a couple of drivers. Unfortunately, we do not have Jason Absmeyer, who is not going to come to the commentary box. So I'd love to have a chat to him in the commentary box, as he did come in third place. But we do have second place, Fleming Bauer. Third place, Fleming Bauer. Fleming, welcome to the commentary box. Third place here tonight. A fight with Christoph Peterson to the end. You lost out to Jason Absmeyer in the pits, but it was a good race nonetheless. How are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, it was a fun one. Steven tires cried and track was slippery. It was fun. It was a very, very intense race.
Well, taking a look, a lockout for the Pandacity team into the top 3. I'm sure it's quite a special moment for the team, considering all that has gone on. But taking through the race, it looked like at the beginning it was a little bit of a challenging time trying to work your way around. Christoph Peterson got put offline. You took the advantage, but it landed up with Jason Absmeyer and yourself fighting for position. Was there any bit of talking to one another during the course of that whole scenario in the first half?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was just one of those, agreements of if there's a blue flag, don't try and make a move. Don't kill both by trying to take one position. So I think we kept it calm and just did the laps through. Obviously, thought of saving tires. It didn't happen at all. Tires said no more. And I stayed out a bit longer. Blue flags were great. Didn't have any real issues. So yeah, it was a great race strategy-wise. Didn't really have one for this one. It's one of those tracks, there's only one line. So yeah, it was just about keeping it clean as far as possible.
And keeping yourself on the podium, a good haul of points for the championship. A third place here, going to put you just ahead of Daniel de Villiers, as you managed to have a good go. But that DNF in round 2, now looking way in the past. What's the game plan heading into round 6?
Basically, just gonna put head down and see how it goes. Maybe put some more time in, and we'll definitely see. And unlucky to the guys on the accident. I saw it on stream now. That was just bad luck. And Stephen, again, thanks for everything.
Well, it's still a good one. Fleming, before I let you go, anything you want to say to our sponsors, to the admins out there, but I think most importantly to the drivers of teams that you race against, your own team as well, as we do have a lot of support coming in for the Pandassi tonight. But to all the petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands, cheering the drivers along in both Pro-Am, Gold and Silver.
Yeah, Stephen, again, thanks to Raceface, thanks to all the admin, Bertus, everyone. Stephen, the commentary is always great. Our team, Pandacity, I think 1 to 3rd on the podium is awesome. Xavier, everyone that arranges everything and keeps us updated and motivated. Thanks a lot, guys. Everyone else, the teams, LNR, PWSR, everyone had a good go. I think it was a great race. And again, everyone, if you can, join in the sim racing community. It's great.
Absolutely.
It's great fun.
Well done, Fleming Bauer, getting 3rd place for the Pandacity team. Moving on to our 1st place driver is a driver that has gotten first 3 rounds in a row. Round 4, he got 2nd because the birthday boy, Fleming Bauer, got ahead of him. Begor Krobler was his birthday today. But Henry Mayer taking 1st place yet again in round 5, stretching his legs on the point. Henry, welcome to the commentary box. A 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for the Pandacity team. I'm sure there's a big smile on the face of that one. But a very good amount of hard work needed to stay in 1st, considering of the strategy change that happened on early parts of the race. Christoph pitting that little bit early and pushing to get that fastest lap on you.
Yeah, like Christoph had good pace this round. I think without the bumping in the beginning, it would have been a close race between him.
Well, taking a look, Zandvoort, a very difficult circuit. What was the game plan coming into this race, knowing that this circuit is not an easy one for overtakes, especially when you got back markers in front of you and when you have to fight it out because your own team didn't hold back on you?
Yeah, Stephen, I think the main thing with this track is just keeping it clean and consistent. Like, it's so easy to make a mistake. You just drive a curb wrong and it's race over. So I think the entire team's game plan was just keeping it clean and consistent.
It was definitely an interesting one. Oh, Henry, you so far leading out the charge for the team of Pandacity, taking a look through the field. I mean, Mordred Claessens and Begor Krobler had an incredible fight for 4th place, and it's definitely one that I think was some of the best fights that we've seen. But to go and see a lockout as one of the team captains for Pandacity for sim racing, what's this to the team now that you've got a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd here at Zandvoort?
No, it's just great, and I think it just shows that the team behind the scenes are working hard to get everyone going and keeping everyone motivated. And all the drivers just simply pushing each other. Like, everyone wants to beat everyone at the end of the day. Like, no one likes losing, so everyone's trying to catch up and learn from each other, and it's a big team effort.
A definite hard work coming in, considering the team is leading out the points. Well, before I let you go to enjoy the celebration with the team, anything you would like to say to all the sponsors, to the admins, to the teams, of the drivers that you're out there on the track, but most importantly, and I think you agree with me on this, your own team that was cheering you on, and the incredible petrol heads that we have here at RaceFace.Pro that was out there in the virtual grandstands cheering on all the action.
Yeah, just a massive thanks for everyone watching. Everyone supporting the team, everyone behind the scenes at RaceFace, all of you commentating, Stephen, every week in, week out. I heard you last night, always passionate. Just a massive thanks to all the sponsors and everyone.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Henry Mayer, finishing out 1st place in the Pro, will be joining the entirety of the team. 3rd place in Pro-Am, a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd in Pro. Henry, go and enjoy the celebrations. Well done, buddy.
Thank you.
What a run, what a time, and ladies and gentlemen, it has been an exciting one. Thrills, spills, and everything happening on in this race. A change-up in the points is definitely on the cards, and we're looking forward to seeing how that's going to work out for our drivers in the late stages. Next week, we're moving over to round 6, and we're going to be having a little bit of fun out in the sun as we race around the beautiful circuit of the Nürburgring before we move on to our final 2 rounds, which will be round 7 and round 8, Donington and Monza. So it's Nürburgring next, following is Donington, following is Monza. But that being said, it's been absolutely incredible. Congratulations to all the drivers out there that pushed through to the very end after the biggest accident we've seen this season, and to see a lot of the drivers actually in the back, in the pit lane, talking with one another. Now, I want to give a shout out to those drivers, because for them to go and have a chat in pit lane to say, look, problems were had, problems were made, sorry, and moving on. Well done to you guys. No brawling, just going and having a good chat. So it's always good to see that happening out there. And honestly, well done indeed to the drivers out there in the pits. But with that being said, a massive shout out to our sponsors like of SBR, Rhino Utility, Simulator K, Virtual Motorheads, and our title sponsor running that 10% discount on EGR Sim Rigs, which, man oh man, that is so tempting right now. EG Evolved Simulator Rigs on incredible effort. Honestly, well done for joining us, being part of the season, and also to the teams and drivers for the incredible work. And most importantly, and I think everyone in the pits will agree with me on this one, to you out on the virtual grandstands, cheering night in and night out. And I know everyone keeps saying, thank you, Stephen, but honestly, there is no reason to be thanked. Excitement is because this is exciting. This is real racing. It might be in virtual cars, but it's real racing. It's real fun and real passion. And honestly, I can't imagine doing anything better on the night. So a big shout out to all the drivers, teams, and to you out there on the virtual grandstands. Thank you so much for joining us here at RaceFace.Pro. And make sure you take a look at our sim grid, as we've got more to come. Le Mans Ultimate next weekend. Round 6 is going to be an interesting battle for the drivers to fight their way through. Plus, this weekend, we are opening up grading for the iRacing GT3 Championship. So if you want to test your luck with iRacing in the GT3 cars, whether you're in the new Aston Martin, or you're fighting out in the BMW M4 GT3 Evo, or you're taking the trusty old cars, the Merc, the Ferrari, the Honda NSX, it's all out there, and we're looking forward to seeing what you guys can do in grading, and we'll be restarting our iRacing season. Plus, we also have the prototypes coming into play with iRacing, LMP2s and GTPs out on the track. What madness is this? But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us here at RaceFace.Pro. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, the usual YouTuber stuff, and like always, enjoy the racing, have some fun, follow us on social media, and keep up to date on what's happening here at RaceFace.Pro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you can say it with me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and with that dodge, good night, everybody.